Many of you would remember the incident of the Titanic, particularly from the film, but one thing they did not highlight at that time was not very far away there was a ship called the Californian passing by. The radio officer of the Californian woke his captain up and said, "There's been an SOS, the Titanic is sinking." The captain yelled at him, "The Titanic is unsinkable," and went promptly to sleep. When he reached New York, he was arrested because in the marine world, every single life is given such high importance that you may be on an aircraft carrier worth $1 billion with 100 aircraft on board, and you get an SOS from a small boat. You are required by maritime law to go to the assistance irrespective of what the risk is to you. The value of human life is so high in the world and has been for centuries. Tens of thousands of people have been affected in saving life at sea, and hundreds have lost their own lives. Ships have gone down in trying to rescue people in distress. So for us, particularly somebody like myself, as in the introduction, running an organization involved with human rights, abuse, etc., and as a mariner, as a naval officer, as a merchant ship captain, as a ship owner, this came as a shock over the years, seeing how badly mariners were being treated all over the world, particularly flags of convenience vessels, on which many crews are from the countries that were named earlier on, particularly around the subcontinent. Our issue today is mainly to address the plight of not only the mariners, but when they're away, their families do not get any money. So a month or two they may borrow, beg, etc. But after that, for months on end, there's no money coming in, and leave alone education of the children, leave alone health care, they get virtually destitute. But because there is no mechanism to get money to reach the families, when the crews come back, when they're released, they have the big problem of rehabilitation. They've gone through a huge trauma, resettlement, and then, of course, re-employment after that. In many of our countries, the mechanism for crews or flags of convenience is very, very weak. As a result, even the crew of the Suez, the captain will be talking to you later, Captain Vasi, he'll be able to tell you that even today, they are still in a difficult situation after all these months and all the gallant efforts made to recover them and get them back. The Navy, of course, plays a very important role in everything off our coast. The Maritime Security Agency is run by the Navy. All coastal defense is with the Navy, not with the provinces. And of course, in the deep sea, all incidents involve the Navy. As a result, we are very grateful that the Chief of Naval Staff has personally been able to grace this occasion, and other senior officers are here who are directly involved all the way, not only in our own force, but as you just heard, the Task Force 151, last commander of the task force, who's been operating all those ships out at sea, will also be addressing and telling us his experiences of what happens with the task force operations. After that, we get to the negotiators themselves. They try and work out with the Somali pirates how to get the ships and crews back. Now, you'd be interested to know, of course, that the ships are insured, the cargoes are insured. So the ship owner has very little interest in doing anything more than getting his money out of it. The crew, unfortunately, are not very well covered by either the hull and machinery or the P&I coverages. We will be hearing a lot more about that. And also, now looking at general insurance, we have a mariner who's now number 2 in one of the major insurance companies. He will be speaking to us about what sort of insurances are possible to supplement P&I, hull and machinery, etc., to provide support to the families. We then come to the crews themselves, and that, of course, there'll be, besides ships, are fishermen. Our fishing boats have been captured and used as bases by pirates. So we will be having folks from the fishing industry speaking to us later in the day. The big problem comes for our own organizations like the Directorate General Ports and Shipping, the Principal Officer Mercantile Marine Department, the Shipping Master. I'm very glad to say they are here with us right now. And they get involved because they are responsible for the safety, welfare, etc. of our mariners. And they have a very tough job in this sort of a situation because there's very little they can do unless the crews are adequately covered by some form of insurance or guarantees, etc. For example, every ship has hundreds of millions of dollars worth of insurance for oil pollution if there's an accident. They have all the support available, legal and administrative, from the P&I clubs and, of course, for the cargo. In Western countries, the unions are strong, the ship owners are strong, and, of course, the state companies like the NSC, whose representatives, former chairman, president, and staff will be with us. They, of course, are well organized, but it is the random tramp ships and the flag of convenience vessels on which many of our sailors work who are in the greatest difficulty. To bring all this together, we have a number of academics from all the countries that have been named. Now, when I mention academics, many of them have a naval background, like the former head of the Indian Coast Guard. He's no longer known as that. He's known as Dr. So-and-so because he's more on the academic side now since he's retired as the head of the Coast Guard. And similarly, many of the others who are with us and will be addressing as speakers or as chairs or as participants in working groups, they will be able to get together the ideas that come up by the working groups and what are expressed by the speakers. Finally, the introduction you've just had of the IMB, the International Maritime Bureau, this was set up 30 years back. And I had a personal incident which brought me to them. This was a brand new organization, and I was one of the first early ship owners to become a member of the IMB. One of my ships got into a bit of a problem. In fact, the commanding officer was a retired naval officer, Commander H.M. Khan, and we had some difficulty, and we were being made a victim of a maritime fraud. They were brand new. The IMB was headed by a gentleman called Eric Ellen, who was a police officer from the UK. But to supplement his work, not being a mariner, he had no idea about what happens at sea. He got a young master mariner, Captain Mokandam, to join him. And it's our good fortune that he's still with us at the IMB 30 years later, now as its director. Between him and Mr. Eric Ellen, they were able to get all the stakeholders together with me over there in their office and sorted out the problem. I realized the significance and importance of that brand new organization those days, and today, of course, it is the leading organization which has involvement with maritime fraud cases, issues where if I want to, as a ship owner, I am offered a cargo by somebody, I quickly send a message to the IMB, and they send me a write-up about that organization. Similarly, the cargo man asks who is the ship owner, they get the full detail about him, and then of course the ships are tracked all over the world on a daily basis. It's a very, very comprehensive database. I'll stop over here, and it is my proud privilege to invite Mr. Mokandam to come and say a few words about this subject that we are so concerned with. Captain Mokandam, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Sarfraz, Admiral Asif Sandela, Admirals, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege for me to be here in these wonderful surroundings to address you today. It's certainly a lot warmer than London and much more hospitable. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And my thanks particularly to the Fazildad Human Rights Institute, the Bowra University, and the other partners who have come together to organize this event. The subject on which I've been asked to speak to you is piracy, with a particular focus on Somali piracy. The view I'm giving you over the next hour or so will be the view from the Piracy Reporting Center of the International Maritime Bureau. I'll speak a little bit about it. The IMB is a specialized division of the International Chamber of Commerce, which is the World Business Organization headquartered in Paris. And we look into commercial crime for business. The areas that we cover are in shipping, maritime fraud, container crime, trade finance fraud. Then in banking, we look at financial instrument frauds, money laundering, and the counterfeiting and intellectual property issues outside. This is the range of activities covered by the Commercial Crime Services. Within the Commercial Crime Services is the International Maritime Bureau. And I'll talk in some greater detail about the Piracy Reporting Center, but I'll be looking really at the worldwide numbers, hotspots, types of attacks, with a particular focus on Somalia, which concerns us all today. And we all know the tremendous role which has been played by the Pakistan Navy along with CTF 151, and has been a presence in the common fight against piracy of the east coast of Africa. We'll be looking at the response from governments and navies, the response from the vessels, the best management practices, which is a code of guidelines put out by the industry and the navies together, and